Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on GT Sport. We're back with a daily race track guide for Daily Race C and a race guide, because I've seen a lot of people have been struggling here this week. So if you do enjoy these videos, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button, and let me know in the comment section if these videos help you out. So straight into turn one, we're going to be looking for the 100 board on the right hand side. That is what I use as my reference for where I'm going to brake. So as we approach that 100 board, onto the brakes, we're going to then get on the brakes very aggressively to start with, obviously, and downshift quite aggressively with this car for time trial. And then trail brake off the brake gradually into the apex. So you're obviously aiming to get that left-hand tyre into the corner nice and early. And you can see that trail braking going gradually off as we hit the apex, off the brake completely, and now we're going to go onto a bit of acceleration as we go through the corner. Now as we come through, we're going to go onto the throttle and then upshift to third gear before we go into the apex of the next part of the corner, and come off the throttle and accelerator there and just let it coast for a bit, then back onto the throttle before we hit the curb on the right hand side here now. And you're going to try and cut as much of this off as possible. You can actually take your left hand tire almost up to that grass. It's crazy how much you can get away with on that corner. Now out of this corner, we're going to try and keep the left hand tire on the curb briefly. You can see we're going to come off the throttle very slowly here. You can see a little bit of throttle lifting and just basically monitorizing that brake, the accelerator, sorry, all the way through the corner, just so that we don't get too much rear sliding through there. But yeah, you can really gain with a bit of tires on that curve. Next braking zone, we're going to be looking for the 100 board again. We're going to brake a little bit short of the 100 board though this time. I use it as a reference, but I tend to brake quite a bit before. You can see there on the brakes nice and early before that 100 board, and then downshift into second gear. But before we get into the corner, you can see we're going to start the trail braking again around this point. So trail brake through the corner, and you can see as we're about here, we're going to go up to third gear after being in second gear. And this is going to obviously enable you to accelerate out the corner without shifting up, because that will gain you a lot of time on this game. So this car is a tricky car. Obviously, you do, the more shifts you do, tend to lose a lot of time. Another thing with this car is you want to lift and shift with this car, so you can see it whenever I shift. Next braking zone, again we're looking for that 50 board on the left hand side, braking just short of that, in between the 150 approximately, into this right hand corner, trail braking all the way in, downshift to second gear to help with rotation through there, then back up to third gear. Now you can get away with a lot of shifting in time trial, but in the race maybe not quite as much. So into this corner, I brake literally as my left hand tyre hits the curb on the left hand tyre side. You can see I'm onto the brakes, and then we're going to make sure we're early on the brakes. Better to be early than late on the brakes for this corner. The earlier the better, because you get better rotation, you hit the apex nicely, and then onto the throttle briefly, and then you can see onto the brake. We're going to only put a tiny bit of trail braking in here though. You don't want to go aggressively because we don't want to scrub too much speed off, so we're just putting a tiny bit of trail braking in just to help with the rotation on that corner. Back onto the throttle now. You can see onto the throttle here. Now we're going to be not maximum throttle straight away. We're going to go up to 50%, and then once the traction builds, up that throttle to 100% and work your way into the next braking zone, which I look out for this little bit of tarmac on the left hand side. I use the start of that as basically my reference where I'm braking. As you see now, as we come to it there, onto the brakes, trail brake again aggressively at first on the brakes, and then trail brake into the corner. So you see aggressively, then trail braking all the way into the apex of the corner, and basically off the brakes all the time before you're hitting the apex of the corner. And here you can see your right hand tyre, you want to almost skim that curb on the right hand side. Rotate the car 50% throttle. Once the car straightens up and gets in a straight line, then you can put that power down and utilize the power of this car. Through this left hand corner, you will need to lift and monetize that accelerator all the way through the corner. You need to just keep that throttle inputs at about 50 to 60%, and then you're looking for your next braking point, which I use the end of the curb on the right hand side there. Just as we go past there, I'm going to get on the brakes, and again aggressively on the brakes, and then trail brake all the way into the apex and down to second gear, but back up to third gear before we get into the apex of the corner. You see the gear shift changes there, and that enables us again not to have to do the shift from second to third gear. Now in the race, you might feel a bit more consistent doing it in second gear, but it is faster to do it in third gear. Even in the race, it's just pretty difficult with the fuel on board and understeer. Then we're going to power away over the finishing line, and we go over for a 1:17.0, which isn't the most amazing lap time, but it was pretty solid. I think it's good enough. It started us from pole position in the majority of races we've entered, so yeah, it's obviously pretty good. Now, at the start of the race, I like to start in second gear. Now, I was thinking that not revving out would be better in this car, so you can see I've got my throttle at about 70%. However, watch Antomic's behind us and look at the start he got. He got an amazing start at the start of this race. Luckily, we were able to brake a little bit later and a little bit more brave, and we got that lead. But let's have a little look how he does it. So what he does a second gear start, but he completely floors the revs. He doesn't do like 70%. it's 100% revs off the start, and that enables him to get an insanely good start. So we know now we don't want to do that 70% revs. We just want to keep that foot on the accelerator and just keep it in second gear, and you should get pretty good start. He also timed it very well as well, which probably helped him out quite a bit. But yeah, now for the race. This race has got some fuel saving in, which actually helps with this car for consistency, because you can see I'm in mixture 2 here. I don't need to go in mixture 1 because mixture 2 is very fast and it's also very smooth. So keeping it mixture 2 there, and then up into mixture 5 for these corners. Now, one thing I will say is I tried out mixture 5 for this. We have done mixture 6. Mixture 6 can actually produce the same lap times pretty much as mixture 5. I just wanted to give it a go and see if it was any faster for this. The only thing is, if you're not using mixture 6, you might have to put some fuel in at the pit stop. But you can see all the way through this section, there is no need to be running anything more than mixture 5 really. Look, it's keeping it mixture 5 here. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to get it into mixture 1 ready before the final corner, because you don't want to be messing around with the fuel mixture as you're going into a braking zone. You want to get everything sorted for your braking zone. So yeah, back into mixture 1 for the braking zone, so that we're using mixture 1 all the way up this hill now for the power zone. And then what you'll see I'll do is I'll go into mixture 2 or 3 before I get into the braking zone again. So into mixture 2, then 3, that's sorted. We don't have to worry about that then for the braking zone, and then just keeps it nice and smooth. And what this will also do, it will actually help keep your tyres in a bit better condition. So for this race I was running -1 brake bias. For me that feels okay. I think you can go 0, -1. -1 though seems to give pretty good rotation through the corners. And again, you can see we're keeping that the fuel mixture going through here in mixture 2. We're not going to go into mixture 1. We don't need to. Again, you can see it's fast enough in mixture 2. It's just a waste really using mixture 1. It'll just kill your rear tyres, spin them up. And again, through here, mixture 5. Again, I think you could go with mixture 6. I have done mixture 6 and it produced identical lap times as what I did with mixture 5. So mixture 6, one thing I will say as well, it's insanely good at getting on the throttle very early, because you can just plant that throttle down. It reduces the power, but it stops the wheel spin, so you don't actually lose any lap time. So yeah, through this whole section, I personally will probably go to a mixture 6 in my next run that I do, and try out that and go with a no refueling strategy when you pit, because then you're going to save a couple of seconds in the pit stop. Again, into that final corner, get into mixture 1 before the final corner, or mixture 2, whichever you prefer. And also, I'm doing it in 3rd gear there. One thing I will say is you might prefer doing it in 2nd gear. Now, this is all down to personal preference. Remember, consistency is how you like to race these races. If you don't feel comfortable doing something, do it the way you feel comfortable, because you'll be more consistent. I've seen so many people making errors at this track this week. You don't have to be insanely fast, as long as you're consistent. So, for example, I'm aiming for 1:19 3s to 6s on my soft tyres when I start the race. But for you, if you feel like 1:20.5 is, about your pace, don't aim to go fast. Just keep it around that to 1:21. If you can do lap times consistent around that all the way through the race, you're going to beat a lot of people and gain a lot of driver rating at this combo. So we're carrying on here. You see Atomic's pitted lap 7, probably going for a bit of an undercut. It is possible to do on the hard tyres, because the hard tyres can still do 1:19s once the fuel comes down. So yeah, I'm starting to catch up to P18 here, which did actually cost me a bit of time in this race, because we got a bit of dirty air. When you are in the dirty air of even if it's a back marker in the ghosted, it will cause you dirty air. You see, I have to go down to 2nd gear here and stay in 2nd gear, because I felt if I went in 3rd gear with the rear tyres fading, we might have lost control on acceleration. So I didn't want to risk it. Decided to just do a gradual 2nd gear acceleration, then up to 3rd gear, and then decided to pit at the end of lap 9. Now, I think this is pretty optimal. I think that anything from lap 7 to lap 9 is a good place to pit. If you're starting from the back, then maybe you might want to, do a bit longer stint on soft tyres. Another point to remember for this combination is, in the pits, if you start on the medium tyres, your pit exit will be slightly slower. So for me now, my pit exit is going to be slightly slower. So you can see we're going to refuel a little bit, because I've gone with the strategy of using mixture 5 instead of mixture 6. That means we're going to have to refuel a tiny bit in the pit lane. But yeah, on the exit here, basically the issue is the computer can't drive as fast on the exit in auto drive with hard tyres and mediums. So if you do start on the hard tyres, you gain over a second just on the pit stop. So if you start on the mediums, you're going to lose a second. So that is maybe worth noting. But one thing I would like to point out, and I think it's very important, is I've seen so many people starting on hard tyres and struggling and losing like 10 positions off the start. I don't think it's worth it. I think if you feel more confident on them softer tyres, you're going to be faster, more consistent, And yeah, it's going to really pay off because you're going to have a lot cleaner air to drive in. So this is our hard tyre lap, doing a very similar thing, using mixture 2. Probably could use mixture 3 through there as well on the hard tyres, but mixture 2 I had a bit of fuel to spare, so I was just trying to make sure we stayed ahead of Atomics here and just keep them lap times nice and consistent. So for me, again on the hard tyres, I aim for the 1:19s into the braking zone, again down to second gear, back up to third gear, very much how we did it in the time trial. So using the same practices that we did in the time trial guide, we can do in the race, but just with fuel mixture changing. You can see through here we're able to use mixture 4 because we had fuel to spare, and I wanted to try it out, and honestly I don't think it was any faster than using mixture 6. So I do think the best way to do this race is, as Will Murdoch pointed out in the chat when we were on Monday, using mixture 6 through this section enables you to get on the throttle really early. You don't have to refuel, and you're going to probably do exactly the same lap times, and you're going to save a lot of fuel. So yeah, that is probably the best way to do it. I was just trying to test things because we had fuel to spare, so I was using mixture 1, mixture 2, and just trying it out really to see how it felt. And you see, with the hard tyres, I also was testing out there whether second gear was going to be better than third gear. One thing I noticed was second gear felt a little bit more consistent, gave you a bit better instant acceleration, but the third gear, it comes back on the straight, and you probably, I don't know, I think second gear might be easier and more consistent to do that corner in terms of hitting the apex, but third gear will definitely be the fastest way if you can get used to doing it. So we finished this race by doing the mixture changes, and we did pretty decent finishing time. We finished the race with very consistent lap times, as you can see there, and we finished overall on a 19 minute 11 seconds. Now there was a few mistakes in that run. We could probably get it down to a 19:08 as an optimal run, but yeah, overall I was very happy with that. Hopefully some of them tips you can use in your race to try and improve your drive rating, because I think there is a lot of opportunity this week to really gain a lot of driver rating, because there's so many mistakes being made. Remember, don't always drive 100% with this car. You might want to just keep it around 85 to 90% and don't overdrive it, because consistency will gain you massive amounts this week. So yeah, I'm going to leave you with the lap at full speed at the time on the time trial lap that we did. Enjoy it, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you for more of these track guide and race videos in the future. Bye everyone.